Have you ever stopped for a second and asked yourself how long you'll have to keep working before you can finally breathe? Before you can wake up one morning and realize you never have to check your alarm clock again? Most people don't ask that question because they are afraid of the answer. They believe retirement is something far away, something that happens at 60, 70, maybe even later. But what if I told you that there's a secret, a rule so powerful that if you understand it, you could completely rewrite that story? What if you could stop working in just 5 years? Not because you won the lottery, not because someone gave you a miracle opportunity, but because of a mathematical truth that almost nobody uses correctly. A truth hidden in the way money compounds when used with intention. So stay until the end to really understand how to do it. But above all, to avoid the trap in year 4, leave a like and let's start. Most people think compounding is something slow, something that takes decades to show results. But that's only because they never use it the right way. They start, they stop, they withdraw, they wait for the perfect time, and then they wonder why nothing changes. The secret isn't just to let compounding work, it's to make it explode. It's to set up a chain reaction that starts small, but accelerates faster than you can imagine. And that's what I'm about to show you, the 2-3-5 principle. The only strategy designed to make compounding hit a point of no return in exactly 5 years. Now I know what you might be thinking. 5 years? That sounds impossible. But here's something to think about. Everything that sounds impossible only sounds that way until you understand the math behind it. The same way flight once seemed impossible before we understood aerodynamics, wealth beyond your salary seems impossible before you understand compounding acceleration. The 2-3-5 principle is built on that acceleration. It's not about working harder. It's not even about saving more. It's about understanding what happens when small amounts of money start producing results faster and faster each year. Until suddenly, you're earning more from your money than from your work. Let me ask you something simple. If you planted one seed today, and that seed doubled every season, how long before you couldn't even count the trees? At first, it wouldn't look like much. You'd plant 1, you'd get 2, then 4, then 8. You'd still see empty space around you. But after a while, something strange would happen. The forest would start to grow so quickly that you couldn't stop it even if you tried. That's exactly what compounding is. And the moment it becomes unstoppable is what I call milestone 1. Milestone 1 is the point where you finally stop doubting that this can work. It's when you realize that compounding doesn't grow in a straight line. It grows like a curve that suddenly turns vertical. In the 2-3-5 principle, this milestone happens after exactly 2 years. The first 2 years are the foundation, the slow years, the invisible years, the years that test whether you have the patience to see something small become something massive. Most people fail here because they expect visible results too soon. They invest a few $100s, wait a few months, and when they don't see fireworks, they stop. But the truth is, the explosion happens later, and only for those who stay consistent long enough to light the fuse. Imagine this. You start with just a small amount, maybe $200 a month. You invest it in a safe, steady, compounding asset, something that grows at around 8 to 10% per year. You don't touch it. You don't panic when it goes down. You just keep feeding it, little by little, month after month. After the first year, you might look at your account and think, that's it. Maybe you've earned $150 in profit. It feels like nothing. But that's because compounding doesn't reward you in the beginning. It tests your patience. It asks, can you wait long enough to deserve the explosion? By the end of year 2, you'll start to notice something different. The small returns from the first year start producing returns of their own. Your $200 deposits are no longer working alone. They're being joined by little fragments of profit that now work beside them. The growth curve starts to bend upward. It's not spectacular yet, but it's visible. And that's the first milestone. That's the moment your brain shifts from doubt to belief. Because once you see your money making money, even a little, your entire relationship with it changes. And this first milestone could come much faster if you open your YouTube channel now. Since YouTube is on easy mode now, and it's blowing up every small channel that does things right, as I teach you in my free Telegram community, with the link below. Let me tell you a quick story. There was a young man who used to work 10 hours a day at a job he hated. Every month he said he would start saving next month. But one day he made a decision. Just $10 a day. He told himself he'd try it for a year. When the year ended, he saw almost nothing. He He thought it was a waste, but he kept going, and by the second year, something happened. His small profits from year one began to multiply. It was slow, almost invisible, but he noticed a curve. That curve changed everything. He realized he didn't have to chase money anymore. He had to grow it. That was his milestone one. And from that moment, he never looked at time the same way again. That's what happens during the first 2 years of the 2-3-5 principle. You stop working for money and start watching money work for you. You start to understand that wealth doesn't come from big actions. It comes from small actions done consistently. The seed is planted, the soil is strong, and even though the growth isn't explosive yet, it's building pressure beneath the surface. You can't see it, but it's happening. The first milestone is mental. It's when you go from, I hope this works, to, I know this works. And that's what separates those who retire early from those who never do. Now you might be wondering, why 2 years? Why not 1 or 5? Because compounding follows cycles of reinforcement. It needs enough time for your initial profits to start generating their own returns, but not so much time that your motivation fades. 2 years is the bridge between discipline and reward. It's the time it takes for your financial habits to become automatic. After 2 years of consistent investing, you don't need willpower anymore. It becomes part of who you are. You stop asking whether you can afford to invest, and you start asking how you can invest more. That's the power of milestone 1. It transforms compounding from theory into experience. And that's where most people fail to reach. They quit right before the curve turns. They abandon the forest when the first trees are just sprouting. They can't see that in another few years the forest will cover the whole horizon. But you, if you're watching this, you already think differently. Because deep down, you know that wealth isn't luck. It's discipline mixed with time. So let's be honest, you're not going to retire in 5 years by hoping. You're going to retire by designing the next 5 years around acceleration, around making your money work harder than you do. The 2-3-5 principle is the blueprint. 2 years to build, 3 years to multiply, and by year 5, the explosion. That's the point where your returns start growing faster than your effort, where the amount your money earns in a month surpasses what you earn in a week, where you finally see that this entire time, you weren't waiting for a miracle, you were building one. But it all begins with this first milestone, the decision to trust the process long enough for the curve to bend. That's your awakening. That's when you realize that the path to a 5-year retirement isn't about being lucky or smart or gifted. It's about being consistent in silence until your results start making the noise. Because once compounding starts exploding, there's no stopping it. You won't have to chase money ever again. Money will start chasing you. So as you stand here at the edge of your own financial journey, remember this. Every millionaire, every person who ever escaped the rat race, lived through these invisible years. The years when nothing seemed to work, when results were small, when friends and family doubted them. But they kept going, because they knew that compounding doesn't reward effort, it rewards endurance. The explosion comes later, and when it comes, it changes everything. Like when everything will change when you will open your YouTube channel. You could literally cut in half the time on retirement. But, oh well. And now that's exactly where you are. At the beginning of your 2-year foundation, the moment before the curve turns, the moment before the explosion begins to build beneath your feet. You've just reached milestone 1, the awakening, the moment when you stop seeing money as something you earn and start seeing it as something you build. And once you cross that line, there's no going back. So now that you've crossed the first milestone, something inside you has shifted. You're no longer guessing whether compounding works. You've seen it move, even if only slightly, and that's all it takes. Because once you've watched money multiply even a little, your brain begins to see time differently. You stop thinking in days and start thinking in years. You start measuring progress not by effort, but by growth. And that's when you enter milestone 2, the acceleration stage, the phase that lasts 3 years. The part of the 2-3-5 principle that makes people's jaws drop when they finally see what's been growing quietly beneath the surface. This is where your money stops walking and starts running. And it's not because you're suddenly investing more, it's because of the hidden formula behind compounding acceleration. Let's keep it simple. Imagine your initial capital is a small wheel rolling on a slope. In the beginning, it barely moves. You have to push it every month with your small contributions. But once that wheel gathers enough weight, once it grows large enough, Gravity takes over. It starts rolling on its own, faster and faster, until you can't keep up with it. That moment is what compounding truly feels like, and the formula behind it is easier to understand than most people think. Let's say you started your journey exactly as we described. $200 a month, every month, for the first 2 years. You've now built a small base, maybe around $5,000 to $6,000, including your gains. It's not life-changing yet, but this base is the ignition fuel. It's the point where your returns start working almost as much as your contributions. Now, during milestone 2, something fascinating happens. Every dollar that your money earns becomes a tiny employee that never sleeps. If your total return over those first 2 years was $500, those $500 will now start earning for you too. And here's the crazy part. They'll start earning at the same rate as your initial capital. So while you're working your job, your money is quietly hiring new workers every single month. This is where the 2-3-5 principle becomes almost unfair in your favor, because the difference between linear growth and compounding growth is the difference between addition and multiplication. Most people keep adding. They think if they save $200 more, they'll get $200 richer. But when compounding kicks in, every $200 you add doesn't just grow by $200, it grows by multiples over time, because it recruits new money to work for you. This is why the rich seem to accelerate while others feel stuck. They're not working harder, they've simply reached milestone 2. Now let's break it down with a clear, easy example. Suppose your investments are growing at 9% annually. Nothing crazy, just average market performance. During the next 3 years, you keep doing exactly what you did before. $200 per month, every month, no matter what. By the end of year 3, you're not sitting at $9,000. You're around $10,500, sometimes more depending on returns. And here's the key insight. Your total gains in that single third year are bigger than what you made in the first 2 years combined. That's not luck. That's the acceleration curve. That's the exact moment compounding turns from slow to explosive. By year 4, you'll feel something strange. You'll check your portfolio and the growth will look unreal. Your account balance will increase faster than your deposits. It'll feel like you've stumbled into a hidden shortcut. But it's not magic. It's mathematics doing what it was designed to do. Reward those who stayed through the quiet years. The interest you earned in year 3 will now generate more interest in year 4 than your entire investment made in year 1. Think about that for a second. The same dollar that barely grew last year is now producing new dollars on its own. You've entered a feedback loop, and from here on, it accelerates on its own. That's why this second milestone is called the formula, because by now, the game has shifted from effort to system. You're not chasing money anymore. You're operating inside a formula that multiplies anything you feed it. The rule is simple. Contribution plus consistency plus compounding equals acceleration. And the best part, once this formula activates, time becomes your ally instead of your enemy. Every month that passes, your growth rate increases. Even if you change nothing, it's like climbing a mountain that starts to push you upward on its own after a while. But to truly master this milestone, there's one mental shift you need to make. You must stop measuring progress by how much you've invested and start measuring by how fast your money is growing, because the numbers will start to surprise you. In your third year, your total profits might equal what you invested over 3 months. In your fourth year, it might equal what you invested over 6 months. And by year 5, it might match your entire year's contribution. That's the exponential curve. The silent engine that the wealthy have understood for centuries. And yet most people never get here. You know why? Because they pull the plug too soon. They withdraw their money at the exact moment it's about to take off. They see $10,000, they panic. They think, I could use this money for something. And they stop the process right before the acceleration phase. It's like turning off an airplane engine while it's still on the runway. You never get to experience the flight. The formula only works if you let it complete the cycle. Now, I want you to imagine something. Picture your financial journey as a snowball rolling down a hill. At first, it's small. You push it, it barely moves. That's your first 2 years. Then, as it rolls, it starts to pick up snow. A little more with every turn. That's year 3. By the time it reaches year 4, it's massive. It's rolling so fast that you couldn't stop it even if you tried. That's the formula in action. That's milestone 2. the point of acceleration, where the snowball starts to roll faster than your hands can push. But let's go even deeper. Why does this happen exactly at this stage? Because of what mathematicians call return reinforcement. It's when your returns begin creating enough new capital to reinforce themselves faster than you can supply external cash. It's like a chain reaction. Each dollar ignites 2 more, and those 2 ignite 4 more. And after a few cycles, it becomes unstoppable. This is why the 3rd, 4th, and 5th years of compounding are so powerful. The growth from those years often exceeds everything that happened before. So here's the key takeaway. Milestone 2 isn't about money anymore. It's about momentum. Once your system gains momentum, your role changes. You become a guide instead of a worker. Your job is no longer to push, it's to steer. And that's exactly what people miss when they chase fast returns or switch strategies too soon. They forget that compounding rewards patience more than performance. And this not apply only with money, but also with YouTube, when momentum will take your channel and will literally blow up your bank account. So to understand how to do it, there is the link below. Let's say someone else starts 1 year after you but invests twice as much. On paper, they look ahead. But by the 5th year, your compounding curve will likely surpass theirs because your money had more time to reinforce itself. That's the secret nobody talks about. The advantage of time is more powerful than the advantage of size. It's not about how much you invest. It's about how early your money starts multiplying itself. Now let's talk about how this milestone feels emotionally, because that's important. During the acceleration stage, you'll start to feel something like quiet excitement mixed with disbelief. You'll look at your growing balance and think, how is this happening so fast? That's normal. It's the human brain's reaction to exponential growth. We're wired to understand linear progress. Step by step, 1 + 1 = 2. But exponential growth feels alien. It feels like 1 + 1 suddenly equals 4, then 8, then 16. It's confusing, but it's also intoxicating. It's what creates financial confidence. The deep knowing that if you just keep going, this machine will take care of you. At this stage, you start thinking differently. You no longer see expenses as things you can't afford. You see them as trade-offs against future growth. You realize that every impulsive purchase steals from your compounding engine. So you start protecting your investments like they're alive, because they are. They're alive in the sense that they're reproducing, multiplying, growing while you sleep. That's when you know you've reached milestone 2. You're no longer fighting against money, you're collaborating with it. And maybe this is the most important part. You begin to understand that freedom doesn't come from a big income. It comes from momentum. The moment your money starts growing faster than your effort, you're free. Because even if you stopped adding new cash, the system would keep building itself. That's what this 3-year window gives you. A self-sustaining cycle. It's not magic, but it feels like it. Because after years of pushing, you finally feel the pull. And that pull, that invisible acceleration, is exactly what will carry you into the final milestone, the explosion. The last phase of the 2-3-5 principle. The moment when the curve turns almost vertical and you realize that your wealth isn't just growing, it's multiplying beyond anything you thought possible. That's where the 5-year retirement becomes real. That's where compounding stops being a theory and becomes your reality. But before we get there, remember this. Everything that's about to happen in that final phase is only possible because you endured the quiet years and trusted the formula. You built the base. You triggered the momentum, and now you're about to watch your compounding explode. You've made it this far. 2 years to build, 3 years to multiply. You've gone through the doubt, the silence, the slow months when nothing seemed to happen. You've watched your balance rise in small steps, then in bigger ones. You've learned patience, consistency, and the rhythm of money itself. And now, you're standing on the edge of the 5th year, the moment everything changes. This is milestone 3. The explosion, the phase where compounding stops growing quietly and starts roaring. The stage where you finally see, with your own eyes, what happens when time and discipline collide. At this point, something magical happens. The curve that once moved like a slow climb suddenly turns upward, almost vertical. You check your numbers and can't believe them. In just 12 months, your growth equals or even exceeds what you earned in the previous 4 years combined. You haven't changed your strategy. You haven't increased your effort. The only thing that's changed is momentum. The invisible force that you built over the years. It's the financial version of gravity flipped upside down. Instead of pulling you down, it's now lifting you up. Let's put it in perspective. Remember that small $200 monthly investment. By now, after 5 years, that consistent stream of deposits has created a balance that's not just impressive, it's life-altering. You started with almost nothing, but through the 2-3-5 principle, your base capital and your compounded returns have begun to work faster than you ever could. Your monthly profits might now equal what you used to earn from your job in a week. Your yearly returns might cover your living expenses entirely. And that's the exact point where retirement stops being a fantasy and becomes a choice. That's what the explosion means. It's not about reaching $1 million, it's about reaching the freedom number, the point where your money pays for your life. For some, that number might be $100,000 producing $10,000 a year. For others, it's $500,000 producing $40,000. The number doesn't matter, the principle does. Once your passive growth outpaces your spending, you've broken the chain. You're financially retired, even if you keep working because you want to, not because you have to. Now here's the truth that almost nobody tells you. The explosion doesn't happen because of luck, or timing, or guessing the right stock. It happens because of critical mass. Critical mass is the point where your money has enough energy, enough reinvested profit, to sustain itself forever. Think of a rocket. The hardest part is liftoff. The engines burn the most fuel in the first few minutes just to break free from gravity. But once it's in orbit, it doesn't need the same effort to keep moving. That's exactly what happens in this phase. The effort you made in the first 2 years, the patience you held in the next 3, they were your fuel. Now you're in orbit. You've escaped financial gravity. And from here, everything compounds faster. In this final phase, your returns begin compounding your lifestyle. You wake up one morning and realize you don't have to check your bank balance before buying groceries. You don't think about bills, you don't fear losing your job, because you've built a system that pays you, no matter what happens around you. That peace of mind, that quiet confidence, that's the real explosion. It's not about numbers on a screen, it's about control over your time. Let me give you an example. Imagine Veronica. She's 29 when she decides to follow the 2-3-5 principle. She starts with $300 a month, invested steadily in a balanced portfolio, earning around 9% annually. For 2 years, nothing spectacular happens. She doubts herself but stays consistent. By the end of year 2, she's sitting on roughly $7,500. Then, during the next 3 years, her returns start to compound. By year 5, that small balance has turned into over $22,000. Now that might not sound like a fortune, but here's the thing, she's no longer the same person. Her savings habit, her discipline, her compounding engine are permanent. From this point forward, the numbers grow exponentially. In another 5 years without changing a thing, that $22,000 becomes $52,000. 10 years later, over $130,000. And she doesn't even have to lift a finger. That's the explosion. Not instant wealth, but unstoppable acceleration. Most people underestimate what can happen in 5 years. They think too small, too short term. They want results in days, but they underestimate the power of years. 5 years can change everything if you let the formula run its course. Because what compounding gives you in the 5th year is not just growth, it's independence. You've built a machine that doesn't care if you're working or resting. It keeps earning. It keeps multiplying. It keeps giving you options. Exactly like YouTube. Think about it. YouTube works at every hour, and when you make good videos, it keeps earning, and it keeps multiplying. So join my community to understand how to do it. Here's the mystery behind this phase. The part that feels almost unreal when you experience it. The more you earn from compounding, the less effort it takes to maintain it. You start to notice that opportunities begin finding you. Dividends, interest, new investments, even unexpected sources of income appear out of nowhere. That's not luck, it's focus. Once you reach milestone 3, your attention shifts naturally toward things that grow your wealth further. You've trained your brain to spot growth the way others spot problems. That mental rewiring is part of the explosion too. Now let's talk about the emotional side of it. The first time you realize your money grew more in one quarter than you did from working overtime, something clicks. The anxiety that once ruled your life starts fading. You stop comparing, you stop chasing, you start living. Because financial freedom isn't about having everything. It's about not needing everything. You no longer make decisions out of fear. You make them out of purpose. You start saying no to things that drain you because you know you don't depend on them anymore. That's the moment compounding becomes personal. It's not numbers anymore. It's power. And yet, here's the irony. This explosion doesn't feel explosive from the inside. It feels calm, peaceful, controlled. You're not screaming with excitement. You're smiling in silence. Because deep down, you know that your time now belongs to you. That you've built something that works quietly while the world rushes around you. The calm after the explosion. That's the real reward. Let's zoom out for a second. The 2-3-5 principle works because it mirrors the 3 stages of real wealth creation: foundation, acceleration, and explosion. The foundation is about habits, the acceleration is about momentum, and the explosion is about liberation. Each stage feeds the next, and each one demands patience. That's why so few people experience the final stage, because they quit halfway through the quiet part. But those who stay, those who trust the process, they're the ones who wake up one day, realizing they never have to work again. So how does it feel to reach milestone 3? It feels like control, like knowing that every hour of sleep is productive, like knowing that the next 5 years of your life will bring more growth than the last 20. Because the curve doesn't stop at year 5, it keeps rising. You can stop working, yes, but your money won't. The explosion keeps feeding itself forever. Now imagine what this means for you. 5 years from today, if you started right now, where would you be? Picture yourself waking up on that morning. No alarm clock, no deadlines, no boss, just freedom. Maybe you're sitting on a beach. Maybe you're spending time with your family. Maybe you're finally building something you care about. And you'll look back and realize it all began with a decision. The decision to plant the seed, to let it grow, to trust time more than emotion. That's the true secret behind every 5-year retirement story. Faith in the invisible years. Because the invisible years are where the foundation is built. And once that foundation is solid, nothing can stop the explosion. Not the market, not inflation, not fear. Compounding doesn't care about chaos. It feeds on time. It rewards those who stay. So if you're wondering when to start, the answer is simple. Now. Not next month. Not when you have more money. Now. Because every day you wait is a day stolen from your future explosion. You might think you need thousands to begin. You don't. You just need motion. The math will do the rest. You can start with a small amount, stay consistent, reinvest everything. And in 5 years, the curve will turn. The explosion will happen. And the moment you experience it, you'll never see money the same way again. Now listen carefully. This isn't a promise of easy riches. It's a roadmap to freedom. The 2-3-5 principle doesn't require luck. It requires loyalty. Loyalty to your goal, to your system, to your patience. And if you give it that, it will give you something greater than wealth. It will give you time, the most valuable currency on earth. So as we close this journey, ask yourself one question. Are you ready to start your countdown? Because your 5 years begin the moment you decide, not when you earn more, not when conditions are perfect. Right now, the sooner you begin, the sooner your explosion begins to build. And when that day comes, when you wake up and realize you no longer need to work, remember this moment. Remember that it wasn't luck, it wasn't chance. It was the quiet, invisible power of compounding, doing exactly what it's always done, rewarding those who trust it long enough to explode. That's the secret. That's the 2-3-5 principle. 2 years to build, 3 years to multiply. And by the 5th year, you're free. Now the only question left is, will you start today, or will you keep waiting for a miracle when the formula has been right here all along? Will you join my community, or will you regret when YouTube will no longer be on easy mode later? Think about it. If you've made it this far in the video, it means what I'm explaining to you in my free Telegram community works, right? So join with the link below, and let me know if you expected this in the comments. subscribe to this channel and see you soon. Just a reminder, I'm not a financial advisor. This video is for educational purposes only, and any results depend on your own decisions and actions.